Now we're gonna move a little bit away from the startups and are gonna take a look from the legal perspective on AI-driven business models. And today we have Kathrin Schürmann and Philipp Müller-Peltzer with us. They are both lawyers working at Schürmann, Rosenthal, Dreyer Rechtsanwälte. Kathrin is founding partner of the law firm. She's a specialist in IT, data protection, and competition law. And Philipp is also lawyer and partner at Schürmann, Rosenthal, Dreyer Rechtsanwälte. He is specialized in the data protection, IT law, and digital businesses. We are thrilled to have you today, and we're looking forward to your talk.
Thanks a lot for the introduction.
Thanks.
So I think the startup contest was much more interesting than it seems that the legal topic are, but I can promise you we are not boring. So we are a law firm specialized on new technologies, data privacy, and technology law, and that's why we are currently also working, of course, in a lot of AI projects. So we heard a lot yesterday and also today about AI development, about ChatGPT, generative AI. So it's so exciting. It's also exciting for us as lawyers, I can tell you. So it's really exciting, I think, for you as developers, at companies. And we are talking a lot about the challenges. We are talking a lot about the chances. And there are definitely a lot of chances with AI also in the legal field. And, but of course there are risks. And of course there are compliance obligations for companies they have to fulfill. And of course, we think it's so exciting, but nevertheless, we have to also consider this. And our plea today is, so we have worked in a lot of technological projects over the years, and what we have seen in all the companies is that companies still work in a kind of linear approach. So you develop a tool, you have a great idea in the company, you work, and then the last step you're doing is going to your legal department, going to your data protection officer, and say, okay, can you please help me? So I need your release for this project, otherwise I can't go out, I can't launch the project, can you please sign it? So in linear projects, this might work, but it will definitely not work for AI projects because they're working differently. So we don't have this linear approach. We do have data lakes. We had a lot of data. We have massive amounts of data. We have personal data in it. And there's not only the GDPR to consider, there's the upcoming AI Act, there's the Data Governance Act, there's the Cyber Resilience Act, and a lot more where the EU plans to bring it out. So there's so much to consider, and so we have to think differently. And that's what we want to show you today, because in a lot of projects, legal and the project stakeholders have the same goals. So I found it quite nice that the startup with the data quality won today, because that's a pretty good example where we have the same goals as developers and legal. So we're also looking for data quality, because there's something like data correction within the GDPR we have to ensure. So that's the same thing. So let's work together, and that's something we are looking forward to bring into the companies, because it's, at least in our projects, so it's working. And it's really a good, it brings something new to both worlds, and it's quite useful for both. So we are learning a lot about technology to consult the teams better, and the teams learn a lot about legal regulations and how they can solve it, and learn a lot that it's not so far away. So they also learn that it's pretty close together.
And as said in the past, we have seen these linear projects and this more linear design of how software is developed, of how data is used, and also the past compliance processes were, I'd say, a good fit for this approach. And if we went to different companies, and we came to the conclusion that there was a common understanding of how we build products, how we use data, build new data products. So this can be maybe structured in a very linear way like this. And we came to the conclusion that in the past, people had more or less the same understanding of what is happening in what phase and what are the challenges of different teams. So we have seen in the past that it might not be so easy talking about GDPR and the understanding of PII in intercultural teams. And then we saw it became even more complex when looking at this new regulatory map and the landscape becoming more complex, and then the way the AI products are being designed by the AI teams or data scientists and so on. So one takeaway from today, what we saw in different companies, so even the same company and different teams, what made clearly some kind of difference regarding the success of their teams and their projects. In the lower corner was the phase of debriefing their projects and their iterations of how they work together, accomplishing a well-designed design process, taking aboard every different team from the product teams, the data scientists, the software engineers, operations, and also compliance and legal teams. So the new challenge we saw in these different companies were that by now the design process in itself changes, and it's less linear, it's more of an iterative, dynamic process that is in its way some kind more agile and needs a new, more agile compliance landscape attached to it, built into the design process itself. So especially for looking at the way data is used or needed, required for building an AI product or building a new operation within your company, it's not the same kind of questions being asked by data scientists or BI teams like in the past. Like they cannot maybe answer, you cannot maybe give the answer, how much data do you need, what data, what kind of amount or what quality does it have to have when your data compliance officers or your legal teams ask you these questions. But instead, it's more of an explorative approach, and you have to make this, give this understanding to all the other disciplines attached to this project.
So yeah, that's so we brought you a small use case we had in our practice with one of our clients. So they were developing a product. It was like an Alexa for lab purposes. So you could ask the program, if I mix A and B together, will it be C? So and if you might think so, you need quite correct answers because maybe A and C are exploding when you mix it together and it doesn't result in something you want to have. So they were working with the Azure Cloud. They deployed ChatGPT 4 in it. And of course, as you know and as you have heard, so it can interfere with the goals of the developers because ChatGPT is sometimes hallucinating, you get incorrect answers, and in a scientific environment, so if you mix something together, which shouldn't belong together, so you can have bad results. And if you think it further, so there comes legal in place. So that's why I said we often have the same goals, because of course we are seeing the risk of product liability, of tort. So there are a lot of risks when you have the wrong results, and that's why we were working together with the developer team on how to mitigate these risks and how to mitigate the wrong results, because they also didn't want to have them. And what we have done was this max token settings, but that was not really working well. So because if you maximize the length of the token, so sometimes it's cut off the sentence and you don't get the real result. So that's also not working. But what is really working quite well for fine-tuning the AI models and especially ChatGPT was using the temperature temperature models, so high and low temperature. So if you are using low temperature, it gives you more accurate results. Less results, but more accurate results. If you use a high temperature, it gives you wider results, more creative results. And of course, I can show you an example in this. Of course, in a scientific research, of course, you want to work with a low temperature because you want to have more accurate results, less results because you want to have an accurate answer, also to reduce your legal risk. If you're, for example, an agency who's doing commercials, who's doing videos for your customers, you would maybe work better with a high temperature because you get more creative results. So, but that's something, and it's a good use case where you can see how it really works well together to combine the legal obligations with the developers and working together in this field. So what we have heard yesterday from our Minister of Justice in Germany was digitalization first, concerns second. And I couldn't be there, but I heard it was a lot of applause for that. So I think we think that's good, but it shouldn't result in a work environment in companies with the developers where they develop, and then asking legal because concerns come second. So that's not working, and I think he didn't mean it like that. So what we have to do is to rearrange our compliance processes in the companies. We have to rethink law. We have to rethink our legal processes because it only works if we have a smart compliance process, if we have an agile compliance process, which starts with the first idea of the project.
And as the use case showed, and let us understand, it is very important to at first build an interdisciplinary team and then make them understand each other's challenges. So from our perspective, so we like technology, but we had to understand how does the fine-tuning work? What's your challenge from a design and scientific point of view? And then we could have them understand how can we deal with liability issues. So as said, we like to build these products and we like to see these products being built, but you won't avoid the compliance questions. In the end, someone from the legal team will ask you, well, is it safe to deploy? Can we really bring this to market? As said, by now it just costs us a lot of money, but when will value can kick in and can we scale it? So what we ask you to see is that a smart compliance landscape docks to different phases of the design process and brings the common understanding in these design teams and interdisciplinary teams what we're actually doing in each phase to come to a conclusion where we, for example, document maybe even automatically what the other teams did in, for example, the data procurement phase. So what data did we use and why did we decide on that data per se? So at the moment, the GDPR actually does ask you to do that. You can do all this documentation in the end, and it might be a little painful to go back to your project and ask yourself and your colleagues these questions, but you can also do this iteratively on the project as you go. And you can also try to explain your basic challenges and the question why, or the understanding why the first set of data didn't work the way you asked to, you meant it to be. So, and instead you needed more data, other data. So the way to real data democratization also leads through the common understanding of how we build these projects and how we build these products. So, and the same we're doing with GDPR already, as this is in place at the moment, as you know. The same procedures we have to tackle with the AI Act. So this, and we heard a lot about this in the last 2 days, but it will come to all of your projects in one form or another. And it will come very, very soon, and there will be a lot of questions about this. So from this slide, take away that next year we will know specifically how it looks, and we can have a look at the proposals at the moment. So it has already a very specific concept and form we can discuss, and you can discuss in your teams on how to deploy these compliance questions into your projects. So it also gave us a kind of experience when we talked to the different teams, and we witnessed something that happened with the proposal of the AI Act as well. It's the basic definition of what is AI or an AI system. And if you have followed this discussion between many experts, so in the very first beginning, there was a definition that might have been every Excel sheet or even a calculator being bound by this definition to the AI Act. That's not so much more the point. However, at the moment, there's an autonomous and adaptive element to it. So, in a nutshell, we understood that bringing different kind of definitions to the teams, to these interdisciplinary teams and in companies, help them to understand what they were actually talking about. Because what we see is there's so many different backgrounds and visions and experiences with the overall AI experience at the moment that people sitting in the same room for hours can talk about very similar, different aspects of the project, not actually understanding their challenges. So the AI Act asks for a sectoral and risk-based approach. So not every project we saw on stage in the startup pitch today will be bound by the AI Act in full, but every project will have to consider what kind of compliance obligations take place for their projects. And for the upper third of this pyramid, especially the high-risk projects, there will be a lot of compliance obligations. So as this proposal at the moment, it sees like two pillars. One is the embedded AI, where AI systems steer some kind of security functions within physical products. And the other one, which might be even more interesting at the moment, is the standalone AI products, where an AI system is used to find an output in these areas of industry. For example, projects that will resolve around employment questions or skill sets within your companies. Anything done by HR and recruiting might be considered a high-risk project that will fall under the AI Act. And as we heard before, even things with concerning health, for example. So if your project is bound by the AI Act and will be scoped under this, so there will be a huge list of compliance obligations. And from our understanding, from what we know how these AI design processes work at the moment, it won't be suitable to just check these boxes in the very end of the project when you try to operate or to bring your AI product to market. For example, asking for a holistic risk management approach or specific documentation regarding why you chose certain data. This won't easily be done in the end after a 2-year project, but instead has to be built in your design processes. And for reaching something that could look like this, where a holistic compliance process covers the different questions the AI Act and other regulatory acts have you to want you to tackle, want you to have answers to, or even at least in the end, your legal team will ask you, are we safe about this, and why did you do this? It can be kind of develop into your design process. So how do you reach that? And for what we saw, the most basic approach, and the most important one as well, would be communication within teams and in interdisciplinary teams as well. So make people understand what you're doing, why you're doing it. Take them to that journey, and even spot the right people, being evangelists for your ideas and visions, and challenges carrying in this in their teams as well. Make them understand how you work and how you work your products.
Yeah, so it's about, so our best practice is a lot what my colleague already said, so guarantee also a solid framework. What does it mean? So you have to have this interdisciplinary teams working on AI. So as we saw in the MLAW process, so we have a lot of stations within the process where we have to adapt legal obligations, and it's not working to adapt them at the end. So I think that was clear today. So we have to work together all the time, and the whole life cycle management of an AI project. And it means, so this interdisciplinary teams need to understand, of course, their roles, but they also need to understand each other, and they have to speak the common language. And I don't mean that everybody needs to speak English or German. So I mean, so everybody needs to know, okay, what is AI? What are we talking about? What is MLL? What is personal data? Also, when you work with teams from other jurisdictions, so there are different approaches how to describe personal data, and so you need a common understanding. So our recommendation is really to clarify this, to have something like, so we do a lot of AI playbooks for our clients to give it to the teams so they can work together, they understand each other, and so it's much more efficient in the project. And what's also quite efficient is to have somebody. It doesn't have to be the legal department or the DPO. So they are usually completely loaded with work, and they are not specialized in new technologies. So you need a lot of time to explain it. But what works pretty well is to have specialists like a legal project consultant within the teams, and to be there for the whole team, to ask the questions, to give the legal input, to ensure that the legal compliance is already implemented in the product, so you don't stand there after 1 year development and your legal team is saying, no, we can't launch it because you haven't fulfilled this, and this, and you have to redevelop everything. So it costs you a lot of time, a lot of money, and it's just not efficient. So please really work together and really bring in legal topics within your life cycles, within your sprint periods, etc. That works pretty well. And our other point is, best practice is use existing processes. As I said, you usually have compliance processes, you have a data privacy process, so we are working since 5 years with the GDPR. The GDPR is quite similar to the AI Act, so of course it's not in place now, but it will come in place, and it's so similar, so because it has the same risk-based approach, it has the same documentation obligation, so use what's already there and develop it for a future state, and also make it smarter, make it more agile. So that's something what really works well. And also think about what I already said, AI playbooks, AI ethics. So there can be a lot of helps, a lot of documents and playbooks, etc., pp, which can also help the stakeholder to help themselves. So because, of course, we don't have enough people. That's why we are so keen on developing AI and developing all the new solutions, because we have a lack of professionals in certain areas that also includes legal. So, so we need to work with these tools. And of course, promote personal responsibility. Everybody should be responsible, and it's not working to ask at the end if you can do it or not. So that doesn't work anymore. So you have to start at the beginning. You have to have an iterative way to work with a legal obligation, and then it can be pretty good projects, and it's working pretty well when you're really when everybody is working together, talking together, getting out of the silos, getting the data out of the silos. So we are talking about data democratization. So, and that's the same with departments in companies. So they have to get out of the silos, work together. AI is developing so fast. What we have seen in the pitches. So. We have been talking about AI, I think, since 20 years. And everybody was imagining something like Matrix, or it will happen. So, but, and it was like, yeah, okay, we're talking about AI, we have the first AI project, but now it's this curve. So suddenly everybody is talking about AI because of ChatGPT. It's in the media. So we have conferences about it. So it's really a hot topic, and most of the teams and companies are challenged that they have to develop AI, that they have to use AI, that they have to have AI projects. So it's time to rethink, it's time to work together, it's time to see also legal obligations as a help to make your products better. And this is how I like to end.
So what we ask you in the end is do the counterintuitive and step forward, go to your legal and compliance teams and ask them about discussing the legal and compliance framework, and to talk about the existing and maybe modern processes. Let's start with a workshop and ask them to invite an external law firm who has these experience with these kind of projects about culture and communication around smart AI projects. Thank you.
Thank you.